Welcome back to Drive Your Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, Master Coach Carrie Marshall, and it's time to go after those goals.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Okay, today we're going to do something extra fun. I asked some of you a couple of weeks ago on Instagram what it was that you had questions about with your goals. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of those questions and give you some answers so that we can really start to talk about when you have a question about your goal, where do you go? Well, Instagram, of course. I really do love helping people with their goals. It is a passion of mine. It's something that I've actually dedicated my life to right now. And it is something that it doesn't matter if you're a client or not of mine, I really am here to help you with your goals. And so it was really fun to get questions coming in about your goals and like what's happening with your goals and where you're at, where you're stuck, all of those things. And so I really do want to give answers because I do think it's important that whenever we put ourselves out there and, ask a question that we can actually come back and get some answers. So I'm going to pull up my phone here and grab those questions because I want to make sure that we're hitting everybody's. Now, I'm going to keep these anonymous because I do think I didn't ask anybody if I could share. So just so you know, if you did send in a question, I will be answering them, but I'm not going to say your name on here today because I didn't ask. So the first question that we've got is, I don't know if it's time to drop my goal and go on to another one. I'm getting really stuck on what is exactly the right thing to be doing here, but I feel like I'm stuck with my goal. Okay. So what we're basically saying is I'm stuck with my goal and I don't know exactly if it's time to drop the goal or go or move on. So one of the things that I like to say is when we're talking about moving on from a goal that hasn't been accomplished, right? It's not like you can put a finished on there. What you want to be able to do is do a check-in with yourself. This is when we talk about like a goal audit almost of like, okay, what's going well and what's not going well. The other way to do this when we're trying to decide if it's a goal that we still want to have or if it's a goal that we want to change is we want to start looking at, does this serve me or is it hurting me? Now, there's a lot of gray area in the middle, which is like, it's just kind of doing nothing for me. So let's talk about both of these spaces. So if you're telling yourself that this goal is serving you, but it's hard, then I would really tell you to stick with the goal. Because just because it's hard doesn't mean that there aren't lessons and experiences to have. And so make sure that when we're talking about goals, that you're really thinking to yourself, like, is this something that I'm wanting to do, but it's just hard? Well, then I'm just going to tell you, like, buckle up, buttercup. Like, let's just keep with it because there are going to be some really good things that you can learn from this goal. And so let's just stick with it, even though it's a hard experience. Okay. Now let's go to the extreme of like, it's hurting me. So how can a goal hurt you? Well, there's a lot of different ways it can hurt you, but I'm going to use this experience. I had a client once that was going after a goal. It was a work-related goal, and he was all in with it. But he was all in with it to the point that it was actually having negative impacts in his personal life. So as he was going after this goal, he started to neglect things at home, like his relationship with his wife, his kids, even his health started to kind of rapidly decline because he was putting so much effort into this goal. And so what we were able to see when we did a goal audit was like, this is actually hurting me. And so if your goal is hurting you in that sense, meaning that the actions that you've decided to take, then what we want to do is just kind of, once again, ask ourselves, like, do we need to adjust this? And that's what we needed to do with my client. He didn't have to drop the goal, but what he had to do was he actually needed to now like actually do it in a more healthy way. But you might tell yourself like, this just isn't helpful. It's kind of hurting me. So I'm just going to drop it. Here's the thing with dropping goals is that there's no problem with it. But what we want to do is always, whether we finish a goal or drop a goal, we always want to conclude a goal. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute because I want to go back to that gray area. Oftentimes what I see is that when people are trying to decide if they're done with a goal, like if they just want to move on from it, there's a lot of gray area. It's not very it's not serving them, but it's also not hurting them. And so there's a lot of this gray area of like, I'm just bored. I've been at it for too long, whatever that means. But there's a lot of that gray area. And this is where you just need to decide for yourself what you want to tell yourself about the goal. Like, so somebody was like, well, when do I know when to drop a goal? I'm like, listen, you drop a goal whenever you want to, but do it from a place of authenticity. Do it from a place that you can really feel like proud of yourself. That's what it really comes down to. Can you be proud of yourself going in and coming out of a goal, whether it's accomplished or not? And oftentimes people, what they do is they just stop the goal, push it under the rug, and they never think about it again until it comes up years later when they think to themselves, I should have. And that's what we don't want to have happen, is we don't want the shoulds to come back into your life because you slinked away from a goal. So that brings me to goal conclusions. Whether you are finishing a goal, like finish line, you went through it, right? To you're just giving up, or you've decided to quit a goal, or it's no longer serving you, what we want to do then is something called a goal conclusion. Now, a goal conclusion is where we're going to sit down and we're actually going to process through what I liked about it, what was hard, what was the experience like. But what it does for us is it allows us to get past the slinking away, because what that leaves is it leaves a lot of like undone things, right? Have you ever had a breakup that was like really healthy? I had a breakup that was healthy, and then I had a really weird breakup. I broke up with somebody while he was gone. He was serving a mission. And so I had to break up, number one, through a note. That was weird. And then the other weird thing is that we actually saw each other afterwards, and it just didn't feel right. And so I really I hope that my ex is listening to this. That would be hilarious. But I honestly, because I really did love him so much, I needed closure. Now, here's the crazy part. This is such a tangent, but it's good. I was married at the time. I was married to my husband, and my ex, we worked at the same place. And so I saw him, and it was just so weird, and it just felt undone. And I was so happy in my marriage. I wasn't pining for this other person or anything, but it just felt undone. And so I really needed to have almost like a goal conclusion with that relationship. And so we were working up at a ski resort. And so I told my husband first, I said, hey, are you okay if I go and ride a lift with my ex, just the two of us? And he was like, yeah, sure. That's a little weird. But I kind of told him I just need some closure. And he's like, how about it, my friend? So I told my ex, I said, hey, will you come and ride the lift with me? I just need to talk to you about some things. And everyone around us was like, what is happening? This is so weird. But it was a lot like the goal conclusion, to kind of bring it full circle. It was a lot like the goal conclusion. I really did needed to tell him that I really enjoyed our time together. And I really needed to have him ask some questions, because he did have some questions. And he was actually, as awkward as it was at the first, he was actually, I'm really glad that we're doing this, because I have some questions that felt undone to me, and it's kind of messing with me a little bit. And so it was really good to be able to do that experience together and have some time to just process and ask questions and, have some shared experiences that we were remember how cool that was? And it was a really, really healing experience for me to come out of kind of a funky relationship where I didn't feel like it ended correctly, right? And that's what I see with goals when people give up on goals, is that what happens is they do this thing where they just put it under the rug, don't think about it. And it's almost like they haven't done it the justice of like, hey, guess what, goal, we're ending. Like, let's have a DTR. Let's discuss the relationship with this goal. But I do think that it's powerful. So I want to just remind you that whether you decide to stop a goal or not, always remember that the goal needs to come to a conclusion. And so make sure that you're ending it with a conclusion there. Okay. The next thing, I really want to go to a Taylor Swift concert, but everything is sold out. It is so expensive, and I have no idea how I'd make this happen. Okay, so a couple of different things are happening here. So Taylor Swift's concert, right? But the first thing is you're telling yourself that it's all sold out. So let's start with that piece in general. That's actually not true. As much as sometimes like you think like you can't get tickets, I really don't believe that tickets are sold out. Like if I were to go on a ticket selling a third party right now, I could probably find Taylor Swift tickets, right? So just kind of notice how when we're in that negative space of like telling ourselves that we can't, then all we're going to see is actual evidence that that's not true, right? Of like, I could never, it's sold out, it's this. And so, but there's other people that are figuring this out, right? There are other people. Like I was at a Taylor Swift concert and there was a girl next to me was like, I'm going to try to go to like 3 more. She didn't have tickets, but she knew that she could figure it out because guess what? She had figured out how to get to the concert that we were at that was sold out. So that's the first thing is like, we need to stop with the negative, like feeding ourselves like negative stuff. Like I could never. I see this so often with people. They like check themselves out of it instead of saying like, no, I'm going to figure this out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the money part of it. Okay. So when we talk about money, when it comes towards our goals, what I want you to do is also think about how would I create money if I 100% was desperate for it right now? There's like a million different ways that you can go and make money, right? Like if I needed money right now, I could go and ask people, and maybe this isn't you. So I totally understand if that's not the case that you're in, but I could like go and borrow money from either friends, family, banks, other things, right? I could also, if I needed money in a couple of months, I might go and get a job. I might just go out and say like, listen, I'm going to work nights. I'm just going to make that happen. So you have to ask yourself, how badly do I want it that I'm willing to figure this out? Because when you can actually start to figure it out, you're going to watch that doors are just going to open to you. You're going to have experiences and people are going to say like, hey, I need this help with something. Like I had somebody the other day reach out and say, I need help with something. It's last minute. Can you take over for this thing? And I was like, absolutely. And she's like, and I'll pay you, of course. I'm like, of course, I got extra money. It was so fun. But notice that if I was in a space of like, I don't have enough or I'm never going to make enough or anything like that, that might have not been an option for me. But we have to be willing to just kind of tell ourselves when we're talking about money and goals, we want to have that ability to say like, I can figure this out. I'm willing to figure this out. I'm willing to do the work. That's a huge one because if I told you you could go and get a job at like a local pizza place, there's a lot of you that would be like, ew, no. I'm like, it's money. Why would you say no? You said that you want to go to Taylor Swift. Why wouldn't you work at the pizza place? And you're like, I just don't like pizza. That's like not my jam. But listen, if I want to go to Taylor Swift and an opportunity to make money comes up, as long as it doesn't like impact like my values and virtues, right? You kind of know what jobs those might be, but as long as it doesn't infringe on that space, if I want to go to Taylor Swift, I'm going to get every single job that I can. I'm going to work at the pizza place. I'm going to work at wherever else. I'm going to do odd jobs. I'm going to sell some of my stuff. I might sell my car. I don't know, but notice that how quickly I can solve a problem because I'm willing to solve the problem. Okay. So fun fact too, that I just kind of noticed because I was on Instagram is Taylor Swift just opened up all of her world tour. Fun. So now you need to decide, do I want to go to the US and figure that out? Or do I want to go on the world tour? Super exciting. This is the fun part about doing goals though, is that so often we hold ourselves back from actually doing the goals because we tell ourselves that we can't. Okay, here's our last question that we're going to go over today. I have a really big goal that I've always wanted to do. Unfortunately, my wife is not on board. What can I do about this? Okay. So when we're in a relationship, whether we are with a significant other, we're married, we have a life partner, oftentimes we want them to be all on board with our goals and dreams, but I will tell you that a lot of times that's not the case. Sometimes they're just indifferent or apathetic towards our goals, but sometimes it's like a hell no from them. They're like, no, absolutely not, for whatever reason. Maybe it's going to impact financially, your time, things like that. But ultimately, you need to be accountable for your own goals and dreams. There are going to be times that you might have to actually bump up against somebody telling you that they don't like it at all. I had one of my friends that was going and training for triathlons, and his wife hated it. And she adamantly was like, it takes away from your time. You're always exhausted. Now you're wanting to eat weird things. Like all of these things kind of like piled up for him. And he had to kind of tell her, like, I know you don't like it. And I know that you're always going to see the negative impact of this, but I need to do this for me. And occasionally we're going to have to do that. Occasionally we're going to have to decide if we're going to stand up for our own goals when it comes to somebody that we really love. Now, I'm not saying that this has to be the end all be all for your relationship, but what I'm saying is you need to decide for yourself where you want to be committed. And here's the thing, my friend, he's not divorced right now. He actually did his triathlon and then it was fine. And now he's back to, doing his same old workout routine or whatever. But he said that he had to really work on loving himself enough, but also loving his wife enough to like allow her to have that type of thoughts and beliefs about what he was doing, and that was okay. And so I don't know what your goal is, but what I do want to offer for you is you really do need to just have some really crucial conversations with your wife. It sounds like, why doesn't she like it? And maybe you know already, but occasionally, sometimes we need to be the champion for our own goals, even when it comes to the people that we love the most. All right. That was about 3 questions. We have a couple more that we're going to go over maybe another time, but this has been awesome. Please remember that you can always, whether I have a little question box on my Instagram stories or you just want to reach out because you have questions about your goals, Instagram is a brilliant place to work with me over there, and also YouTube. If you want to come and leave comments on the YouTube channel, that'd be great too. But I'm so all in to help you with your goals, and I promise you, any type of question that you have, there are answers out there. And it just so happens that you have a goal coach, your resource here, telling you that absolutely you can send in those questions. So do not hesitate, reach out, and we'll see you guys all next time. Bye. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If you're ready to get in the driver's seat of your own life, you can come and follow me at Drive Your Thoughts Coaching on Instagram, or come and see more ways to work with me at driveyourthoughts.com.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.